and good afternoon. It is noon and it is time for our weekly Lunch and Learn. Now today we're going to be talking about chemicals and our endocrine system. So what is our endocrine system? Our endocrine system is the body parts that we have that make hormones. So when you hear hormones, you may just think of estrogen and testosterone, and those are hormones, but there are many more hormones that the body makes. And there are, I think, 7 endocrine glands. They are the hypothalamus, which is in your head, your pituitary and your pineal gland, which are also in your head, your thyroid, your parathyroid, which is right here in your throat, your thymus, which is right above your heart. All right, then your adrenals, which are right on your kidneys, your pancreas, which of course produces insulin, your ovaries if you are a woman, and testicles if you are a man. So when we think of endocrine system, it is everything that makes a hormone. So if you're a woman, you're going to be thinking about your thyroid. If you're a diabetic, you're going to be thinking about your pancreas. Male or female of a certain age, you're going to be thinking about sexual function and that kind of thing. And so your endocrine system is very, very important. There is a whole medical specialty called endocrinology that deals with all of your hormones. And so a lot of times medical doctors will start to look at your hormones, look at hormone dysfunction, and they will start to just work on that specific hormone gland. So like if your cortisol is out of whack, they'll just work on your adrenals. But what they don't understand is that all of your body works together. And so your endocrine system is a system. If I get this hormone in line, it's going to help all the rest of them. If this hormone is out of line, it most likely is going to affect all of them. So what are endocrine disruptors? Endocrine disruptors are chemicals that are found in our food and in our water that mimic what a natural hormone is. And so when we have these things in our environment, and then we ingest them or we smell them or we put them on our bodies in creams and potions, then we are disrupting our natural hormone cycle, and we can have all kinds of problems. Now, this particular report that I'm referencing today says that 99% of Americans have been exposed to endocrine disruptors. So that's all of us. And so what can we do? What are they? We're going to talk about what are they. We're going to talk about the glands that they hamper. And then we're going to talk about what we can do to get out of that cycle, okay? So your endocrine system is responsible for a huge number of the body's processes that are vital to the body's functioning. So when our hormones are off, everything is off. We think, right? We think that hormones are only concerned with PMS and low T and postmenopausal syndrome, but all of your hormones can cause you all kinds of problems because they work in concert with each other. Now, what you may or may not know is that the 3 glands in your brain are your master glands, and if those aren't doing well, then nothing below the neck is going to do well, all right? So you need to know that. So these are vital functions for health because endocrine disrupting chemicals can damage the delicate hormone balance. The endocrine system that regulates, it knows where these chemicals are and how to limit our exposure to them is vital to your health. In addition to avoiding endocrine disrupting chemicals, getting a lot of exercise and eating a healthy diet are the best ways to keep your endocrine system functioning optimally. And remember, we have this wonderful tool here in the clinic. It's a $20 test, but we can look at this and we can assess what your nutritional uptake is. Remember, from 1985 to 2002, they have those studies that show that our food is basically 70 to 75% nutrient deficient. Okay, there's less nutrients by 73 to 75% Today, well, 2002, so that's 20 years ago, so that's even more than that today. Those are the last statistics that are available. So you're just not going to get all of the nutrients that you need from your food. So that's the main thing that you need to know. The health consciousness of these disruptors can be overwhelming, especially since endocrine disruptors are so pervasive in the products that we use. All right. Fortunately, you can significantly reduce your exposure by changing your purchasing habits. It also helps to be aware of the broader problem. So Tyrone Hayes, who is a biologist and a professor of integrative biology at the University of California in Berkeley, researched Altrazine. Okay, Altrazine is a chemical that we're going to talk about. It's an herbicide. It's a pesticide. And he noted in his TED Talk that studies already completed by the CDC and others have found that women who conceive during peak Altrazine contamination are more likely to have babies with birth defects, including malformed genitals in male babies. But Hayes quotes a response from the EPA explaining that the agency deals with such problems by assigning a monetary value to the disease impairments and shortened lives caused by these chemicals and weighing these against the benefit of keeping the chemicals in use. At times, the EPA's MATH, Environmental Protection Agency, can be tilted by the efforts of the industry. So Mr. Hayes faced systemic effort by the primary manufacturer of Altrazine to discredit him and his research. All right. The effort eventually revealed a lawsuit. Federal agencies may struggle to protect Americans, and many corporations may not believe they are doing significant harm. However, at the end of the day, it is a choice that everyday Americans that shape the country and determine which business products thrive and which disappear. It's our responsibility to tell these people we don't want these chemicals in our food and in our water. So we're going to talk about the 12 worst offenders. Okay, so the first one is BPA. Now, this is probably something that you're already familiar with because a lot of our bottles, a lot of our plastic that we buy, especially for food storage, will say BPA free. Our water bottles, I don't happen to have one on my desk, but on the very bottom, if you turn it upside down, there'll be a triangle with a number. Research that number, and that will tell you if it is BPA free or not. If your bottle crinkles when you squeeze it, then it's not BPA free. You want a firm bottle that doesn't crinkle. That's just a throwaway there, okay? So BPA is a chemical used in plastics that mimics hormones estrogen, interacting with the estrogen receptors in the body and contributing to cancer development and progression. This is something that we already know. So if we know this, then we want to be checking our plastics to make sure that they are BPA free. I like plastic. I have a drawer full of plastic, storage. There used to be home parties and all that kind of stuff, but you can also buy them at the grocery store. The problem is with that, the tops never match the bottoms, but I digress. You want to make sure when you have those containers, and we all have them, that they are BPA free. And so if you look at the bottom, it will give you a number, and you research that number, and it will tell you. If they're not BPA free, then you need to get rid of them because they are going to cause cancer. BPA is an industrial chemical that has been used to make plastics since the 1950s. Exposure to BPA has been linked to breast, prostate, and other associated cancers. BPA has been replaced in some products by BPS and BPF, but scientists are discovering that these chemicals are just as bad. So where do you find this? As we've already spoken about, it's in your water bottles. It is in your food containers, your plastic food containers. It's in your thermal receipt paper. So depending on what kind, if you have heat devices that print your copies, then you can probably be exposed to it on that. Water supply lines, and then it's used in dental and composite ceilings for your dental work. So you have that. How do you avoid that? You use plastic or water bottles and food containers that are not plastic, metal or glass. Okay, you use metal or glass. You eat fresh fruit and vegetables instead of canned fruit and vegetables. You'll see in some of your cans, you'll open it and you'll pour out your food into your saucepan. If it's a silver on the inside, you're probably contaminated. If it's got a white, then that, from what I remember, that seems to be the better one. I prefer to have fresh or frozen. That's just my preference. Look for BPA-free labels on cans and bottles, and then ask your dentist about BPAs before having work done. The second one, and I think these are in the, like BPA is the worst, Altrazine is the next worst. I think it goes down in descending contamination. Altrazine is the one that we talked about, that this guy was discredited, but his research is sound. There's a lot of money in lobbying and that kind of thing, and so you want to follow the money on all these things. Altrazine is a potent endocrine disruptor, one of the most commonly used herbicides in the United States, used mainly to control grasses and broadleaf weeds. Approximately 80 pounds of it are used annually in the United States. Altrazine persists in the environment and is pervasive in the ground surface and in drinking water. Altrazine is so toxic to wildlife and humans that it was banned in European countries in 2004. Now, why aren't we banned? Why don't we ban it here? Because there's a lot of money in it, and we've got lobbies, and they don't let the truth be heard. So just throwing that out there. Look at what we allow in the United States and look at other developed countries. Look at Europe. What do they allow? Look at South America. What do they allow? Look at India and Asia. What do they allow? Now, China's pretty dirty, so we don't want to look at China. But I think India has passed a lot of laws on some of these herbicides and pesticides. I think that they don't allow Roundup, particularly in their environment. So just, think about that. So exposure to Altrazine has been linked to breast tumors, ovarian tumors, uterine cancers in women, prostate cancers in men. It's also been linked to delayed puberty and other developmental and reproductive problems. Now, we see a lot of infertility here in the clinic, and way more than I remember as a younger person. And these are young people that are just not able to conceive, and it's because we have all of this endocrine disruption in our diet, in our environment, in the air that we breathe, the water that we drink, and so we really need to be aware of it. A study from 2011 confirms Altrazine's effects across the range of species, including ours. It has been found to both demasculinize and feminize vertebrate male gonads. Okay, read between the lines there, okay? Where do we find it? We find it in corn, we find it in sorghum, we find it in sugarcane, macadamia, guava, residential lawns, because everybody puts herbicides on their lawn, and along the sides of the roads and railroads. Why is that? Because the companies, the city, municipalities spray that to keep all the weeds down and that kind of thing. How do you avoid it? You buy organic fruits and vegetables, get a water filter that is certified to remove Altrazine, grow as much of your own food as is possible, and avoid using pesticides and herbicides on your lawn and garden. Just as an aside, those of you who are golfers, right? Because of the herbicides and pesticides that is used on golf courses, men have more testicular and prostate problems that are golfers than men that are not. Just those are the statistics. Women golfers have more breast and ovarian issues than women who are not golfers. So this is important. The next one we're going to talk about is dioxins. Dioxins are formed during many industrial processes and also result from burning chlorine or bromine in the presence of carbon and oxygen, a common occurrence in many combustion processes, including waste incineration or burning oil or wood. Dioxins can disrupt male and female sex hormones in the body. Research shows that exposure to low levels in the womb early in life can permanently affect sperm quality and lower sperm count in men during the reproductive years. Dioxins are long-lived. They build up in the body and in the food chain and are potent carcinogens. Back in the day, when I was young, I think cancer was 1 in 100 people. Now cancer is 1 in every 3rd person. So part of the cancer rise is our poor food supply and all of these chemicals that we see all the time in our environment, and we're just not aware. And so we want to make sure, right, that we're not doing this. So they're found and they accumulate in food chains, mainly in the fatty tissue of animals. The EPA estimates that 90% of human exposure to dioxin is through the intake of animal fats, mainly meat and dairy products, fish and shellfish. Milk, eggs, and butter are also at high risk of contamination with dioxin. So how do you avoid that? You buy organic and you only eat organic. And so, yes, it's more expensive, but your health is priceless. And so if you're consuming these foods, we don't do commercial dairy at all. Why? Because of hormones and antibiotics. We don't want those in our system. So we always choose organic because we don't want that. It is, and the statistics, men that drink milk, commercial milk, have a higher incidence of prostate cancer than men who don't. So be wise. Look at your body. Do you want to have all these cancers? These first 3 that we've already talked about are cancer-causing chemicals. The 4th one is phthalates. Now, it's spelled Phthylates, but it's pronounced phthalates, okay? Studies have linked phthalates to hormone changes, lower sperm count, less mobile sperm, they're not good swimmers, birth defects in the male reproductive system, obesity, diabetes, and thyroid irregularities. Now, I'm just going to tell you, obesity and diabetes are your highest growing health concerns here in the United States. And possibly, quite possibly, these endocrine disruptors are to blame. So get them out of your environment. Phthalates have also demonstrated the ability to trigger death-inducing signaling to testicular cells, making cells in the testicles die sooner than they should. So men, this is really important. Where do you find them? Plastic food containers, children's toys, plastic wrap made with PVC. This has a recycling label of number 3. So look at that on your plastic wrap. Some personal care products, anything or almost everything with fragrance added, especially if it's just labeled fragrance. So look at that. How to avoid them. Use glass, fabric, or metal food and water containers. Read the label on children's toys and opt for more natural material. Avoid plastic wrap. Use natural personal care products, make your own, or carefully read the labels. Avoid any product with fragrances, as most of them are loaded with toxic chemicals. Now, why is that? Because they're very cheap to make, whereas your organic fragrances are very expensive. I have a little bag that I have here in the clinic, and there are 7 of these little bottles here. And each one of these bottles is a blend, an organic essential oil blend for your endocrine system. All right. And so when we have endocrine disruptors, when we have endocrine issues, then we can use these fragrances, which are very, very helpful. They vibrate at the frequency of your endocrine system, and you can get your endocrine system to work properly with these things. I have them in my bathroom. And so I will take them, they're in a little roller bottle, and I will dab my body where those centers are so that I keep my endocrine system working the way that it needs to. So that's really, really important. You find the phthalates in contaminated water and contaminated food. You can best avoid it by using a reverse osmosis water filter and make sure you have enough iodine in your diet. 95% of humans here in the United States are deficient in iodine. And you may say that you're allergic to iodine and you might be allergic to synthetic iodine, but every gland in your body needs iodine to function properly. So those are the statistics. That is biology. Biology does not change, even though people are trying to make us think that biology changes. Okay, biology does not change. Every endocrine gland needs iodine to function. The next toxic chemical we have is arsenic. Arsenic is a naturally occurring metal found in the Earth's crust. It's also a poison that exists in our food and drinking waters. At high enough levels, arsenic will kill you outright. But in smaller doses, it disrupts hormones and can cause skin, bladder, and lung cancers. So there was some research a few years back that showed that almost all of the apple juice here in the United States was contaminated with arsenic. That was the research a couple of years ago. I'm not so sure what the update is on that. However, you want to, pay attention to that. Arsenic also interferes with normal hormone functioning in the corticoglucoid system that regulates how our bodies process sugars and carbs. Disrupting the system has been linked to weight gain, immune system suppression, insulin resistance, which leads to diabetes, osteoporosis, retarded growth, and high blood pressure. Now, if you've been watching our stories, you'll see that we have a brand new product here in the clinic called META, M-E-T-A, and that is short for metabolic reset. Endocrine issues are metabolic issues. So if you have those, then this would be a great 90-day challenge for you because it resets all of that. It resets the endocrine system. I'm doing it. My husband's doing it. We're doing it for different reasons. But one of the reasons that I'm doing it is because even though I'm not diabetic, I'm not pre-diabetic, my insulin resistance is not quite exactly where I want it to be. And this product will reverse that. And so because I'm of a certain age, I'm taking advantage of these products so that I can help myself. So the highest levels of arsenic are in underground water, seafood, rice cereal, other rice products, mushroom, poultry, and fruit juices. You can find online maps showing arsenic concentrations in soil and water in the United States. How do you avoid it? You have a good water filter that filters for arsenic. You test your soil, you eat organic, and you want to avoid rice. Now, interestingly enough, which was a surprise to me, white rice has less arsenic than brown rice. And brown rice is more healthy for you because it still has the bran on it. So just throwing that out there. Fire retardants. I think we all know that fire retardants are bad for us and they are endocrine disruptors. They disrupt the thyroid hormone activity. They cause memory and learning products, delayed mental and physical development, lower IQ. They reduce fertility. Okay, so these are fire retardants. These flame retardants are so pervasive that in 1999, Swedish study regarding women's breast milk found that breast milk contains something they hadn't expected, the endocrine disrupting chemical found in flame retardants, and the levels have been doubling every year since 1972. Breast milk still remains the best product for a newborn. You want to make sure that you do heavy metal detoxing so you get all this stuff out of your system. Where do you find fire retardants? Furniture, carpeting, upholstery, children's pajamas. Always look at the label, okay? Tighter fitting children's pajamas tend not to be sprayed with flame retardant chemicals and usually say so on the label. Baby products, automotive foam cushioning, strollers, nursing pillows, televisions, computers, adhesives, plastics, and rubber. Allow new furniture, carpeting, and pads underneath the carpets, mattresses to off-gas as much as possible before being brought into the house. Now, that's difficult because to off-gas, you take them out of the showroom, you take all the plastic wrap off, and then all those chemicals off gas into the environment. If you can do that, sit it in the yard, do that for a few hours, let everything off gas into the environment. That's better than coming into the house and letting it off gas in the house. I don't know if you've ever been furniture shopping or carpet shopping and you go in there and that smell just hits you. That's the off-gassing of the flame retardants in the upholstery. Avoid reupholstering furniture. Those fabrics likely contain fire retardants. Be careful when replacing old carpeting. Read the labels. Use a HEPA filter on your vacuum, which cuts down on toxic dust. Okay? Glycol esters. Okay? Glycol esters are a large group of organic solvents used in industry and in our home as glass, carpet, floor, and oven cleaners. Studies show that rats exposed to these chemicals suffer testicular atrophy and shrinkage. Nobody's going to want that, okay? Many of these endocrine disrupting chemicals are found in paints. Painters are particularly susceptible to their harmful effects, all right? So if you do painting, you want to make sure that you're protected. Excuse me. A study from the University of Sheffield shows that men working as painters and decorators exposed to glycol esters are 2.5 times more likely to have poor sperm quality and low motile sperm count. That means you don't have good sperm and they don't swim well. And remember, men always have to ask for directions, okay? That's why they have so many. I'm just throwing that out there. Another study in the American Journal of Industrial Medicine found that blood abnormalities and anemia in shipyard painters exposed to ethylene glycol ethers in the paint that they used. Now, ethylene glycol is in food supply, so you need to just look at your labels, okay? Where do you find these glycol esters? You find them in pharmaceuticals, so all of your prescriptions, your cosmetics, your sunscreens, your inks, your dyes, your paints, brake fluid, liquid soap. So be careful when you purchase these products, cleaning products such as glass, carpet, floor, and oven cleaners. You avoid them by looking at the labels. Organophosphate pesticides are a group of man-made chemicals that target the nervous system of insects and are the most widely used insecticides. They're used in agriculture, homes, gardens, and on your pets, all right? Studies have linked exposure to organophosphate pesticides to an increased risk of aggressive prostate cancer, all right? So we don't want that. Breast cancer, thyroid cancer, cancer of the ovaries, all right? Testosterone, how testosterone communicates with other cells in the body, and low T levels also are a result of organophosphates. Also, thyroid hormone disruption also is there. So where do you find these? You find them in your flea and tick collars. You find them in shampoos, sprays, and powders for dogs and cats, gardening products, no pest strips. Now, I haven't seen those in a long time. And then fruits and vegetables from pesticide use. Okay? Perfluorinated chemicals. 99% of Americans have these in their bodies. All right? These chemicals were banned in 2016. 2016, they were banned by the FDA. Many are entirely resistant to biodegradation, which means we will continue to be exposed long into the future. Exposure is linked to decreased sperm quality, low birth rate, high cholesterol, kidney diseases, and thyroid diseases. We see that all the time here in the clinic. Scientists are still studying how these chemicals affect the human body, but animal studies show that they affect the thyroid and the sex hormone levels. Where do you find these chemicals? In grease-resistant paper, fast food containers, wrappers, microwave popcorn bags, pizza boxes, candy wrappers, water and oil repellents, foam used to fight fires, metal spray plating, nonstick cookware, and cooking utensils. So I don't want to say any brand names, But if you're paying attention, you don't buy those brand names anymore because of this reason. Stain and water resistant coatings on clothing, furniture, carpets, and cleaning products. The last two, mercury. Mercury is naturally occurring but toxic metal that is released into our air and oceans primarily by burning coal. You can eat it by consuming seafood that has been contaminated with mercury. Just on a little side note here, if you take omega products, then you're getting fish oil from, obviously, fish. And so what you want to do, they're usually in a gel cap and they're usually shiny. If you put them in the freezer overnight and in the morning when you take them out, they're cloudy, they've got mercury in them, and you don't want to take them. The omega-3s that we have here at the clinic have been vacuum pulled twice by Canadian standards, so there's 0 mercury in there, okay? So you need to look at those products. Omega-3 products should be expensive. If you're buying one that's not expensive, then it most probably has mercury in it. So you need to make sure that you're not ingesting that. Pregnant women are the most at risk from the toxic effects of mercury, and yet omega-3 fatty acids are very, very good for the newborn's brain. And so it's kind of a catch-22. Do I not? Well, you do, but you get a really good clean source in order to do it, okay? The toxin is known to concentrate in the fetal brain tissue and can interfere with brain development. That's why when we recommend that our moms take omega-3 fatty acids, that we do it with the assurance that ours is mercury free, okay? It's also been shown to damage, mercury has been shown to damage cells in the pancreas that produce insulin, critical for the body's ability to metabolize sugar. Where do you find it? In seafood. Okay, you also find it in vaccines. Okay, I'm just going to throw that out there. There is heavy metal contamination in your vaccine. So you want to avoid eating large fish such as shark, swordfish, tilefish, and king mackerels too often. Stick to eating smaller fish such as salmon, shrimp, cod, and sardines. When eating fresh fish, look for advisories for lakes and streams where they are fished from. We always want to have wild caught fish because we don't want farmed fish because they feed it nasty stuff. We don't want that. We want it caught in the wild, and we want to make sure that the waters are clean, okay? The last thing that we're looking at is lead. Lead harms almost every organ in the body and has been linked to extensive list of health problems, including permanent brain damage, lowered IQ, hearing loss, miscarriage, immature birth, premature birth, increased blood pressure, kidney damage, and nervous system problems. Now, we see that on our testing that we do here, we see that a lot of people that come in for personality disorder, personality problems, we see that there's a high heavy metal load. There's DNA hair analysis that you can do to find out what your load is, and it's really important. There's also blood tests. We had a guy that came in, his mom brought him in because he had some personality issues, and so we tested. We thought that heavy metal was an issue. He didn't believe us. He was a grown man. He didn't believe us, and so he went to his medical doctor and he got a blood test for heavy metals, and guess what? He was off the chart on mercury, aluminum, lead, all those kind of things. And as the body cleared that, okay, then all of those personality disorders just went away. Imagine that, these things that affect the brain, okay? One of the most common forms of lead exposure is lead-based paints used in the U.S. homes before 1978. These paints contained high level of lead and are particularly toxic to children. Many toys and some furniture of the same era were also painted with lead-based paints. Although goods imported from China in recent years have had notably high lead levels. So this is another reason why you want to buy American, is because we do have the EPA, we do have these restrictions in place, so we're not going to be as contaminated. When I was a little girl, there were lead pipes. We got our water lead pipes. My playpen was painted with lead paint, as was everybody else's. And so if you're of a certain age, you have been exposed to that. Thank God we've got the EPA and that's no longer an issue. However, these things build up in the body and you have to do a targeted program to bring your body back to health in that. So where do you find this? You find this in house paints, particularly in older homes built before 1978. Makeup, such as lipstick, especially the darker shades, eyeliner and hair dye, old water pipes, imported canned goods, and some children's toys. So what you want to do is you want to do as much as you can, but you can take a product called cracked cell chlorella. It's a plant. It breaks down heavy metals and chelates heavy metals out of your body. So does cilantro. If you like cilantro, then add that to your meal plan regularly and you will go a long way in reducing the heavy metals in your body. So I hope you found this interesting. I hope your takeaway is, oh my goodness, I have an endocrine system. They're all my glands that make hormones. I am bombarded every day with endocrine disruptors. So I need to do something to alleviate that. One of your best things, these essential oil blends are really good. We have them here in the clinic. So you can do like I do, dot yourself every day and figure out what that looks like for you. Also, as I said, cracked cell chlorella will help. Cilantro will help. There are a lot of different things that you can do to help. Main thing is awareness. Be aware. If everybody in the grocery store would not buy those crinkly bottles, guess what? That would solve a lot of problems. But we as consumers have to know what we're looking at and we have to make the right decision and we have to tell our management, our grocery manager or whatever, we don't want to buy this. This is not healthy. We're going to boycott this and then they're going to change because they want to sell their products and so forth and so on. We have to be our best advocates. It is the weekend. I've gone a little bit long. I'm sorry about that. It is the weekend. Take care of yourself. Do something good for yourself. Relax. Enjoy your family. Do self-care because that is so, so important. And I will see you next week. Take care.